Hello, we're checking out futurology, so let's see if things are looking up. America has just gifted China undisputed global dominance and leadership in the 21st century green energy technology transition, the largest industrial project in human history. The new US president has used his first 24 hours to pull on all US government support for the green energy transition. He wants to ban any new wind energy projects and withdraw support for electric cars. So, if we just evaluated this based on what is happening, so based on this, the conclusion would be that either he is the long con Chinese spy, or he's a puppet of a bunch of business boys who don't care about anything but trying to stay relevant for a little longer. His new energy policy refused to even mention solar panels, wind turbines, or battery storage, the world's fastest growing energy sources. Yeah. I mean, at least someone is leading the charge in the green energy transition. Yeah. I didn't have my bingo card on that China has to save the planet while West is trying to self-destruct, trying to hold on to power. Of course, not of all, but tiny fraction of the 1%. China was moving into the lead already. Biden was trying to fight that. This is capitulation. And I don't say this lightly, but perhaps America and the world is gonna have the worst president yet. The worst government yet. Trump is doing a crypto rug pull before he's even in, trying to tank the country, losing all soft power to possibly try to appease a tiny fraction of the 1%, and everyone else is gonna be screwed. Alabama faces a demographic cliff as deaths surpass births. Oh, come on, look up Alabama. I'm pretty sure that it's gonna get much worse than that. People are also gonna be very poor, and those who can will leave. Then possibly, at the very end, the rich will come in and buy everything at bargain prices. Germany's 4-day workweek proves to be a massive hit. Yeah. Europe and America will increasingly come to diverge into two different internets. Meta is abandoning fact-checking in the US, but not the EU, where fact-checking is a legal requirement. Interesting. I guess America would just have to use some critical thinking. It's easy to see the broader trend of compartmentalization. China is on its own internet, Europe, USA. Yeah, this is not what you want to see. Well, I could somewhat sympathize that possibly you want to be away from some aspect of the internet, but it's probably best if it's just open, right? Something that was designed to connect is turning into a regionally divided service. This could be really bad. Because even if you argue it was kind of a bit dumb, but like, just imagine, like, you could just play a game and you can just play a game with anyone, right? It's so easy to connect with people and see that, if they are from America or South America or Europe or Africa or Russia. Not that Russia is a continent. I just went with that. Or Asia, whatever. And you can just play with them. You can just interact with them. It's so cool. I mean, that's essentially what Reddit is too. Unless they're bots. And it's rarely gonna be so blatant that you don't get to do it because I want to brainwash you. No. It's always gonna be like, oh yeah, just save the children or something. And possibly the interesting part is that it is very profitable to not fact check, right? Because assuming that they are already doing the fact checking in Europe, then it would cost them nothing, not a single thing, to also do it in the US. Just do the same thing, right? And this is what you would normally see. Let's suppose, even if someone is nitpicky, let's say that someone has like peanut allergy, right? And that means that everything is gonna be without peanuts. Although this is not exactly a great example because software can be just written once and it can be just served for everyone. But the point I'm arguing here is that they have fact checking that they're using for Europe and they're not going to use it for the US because it's going to be more profitable not to. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg tells employees to buckle up for an intense year in a leaked all hands recording. Right. Apparently he's just ends up with leak recordings all the time, which is not what you want to see for some guy you're trusting with your data. Although, hopefully you're not that naive. Mark Zuckerberg said Meta will start automating the work of mid-level software engineers this year. Meta may eventually outsource all coding on its apps to AI. Okay. But there's like a fundamental flaw with that. And who's gonna say what needs to be done? Because that's kind of the key flaw with like Devin or something. Like, okay, let's say that you get rid of the software engineer. I personally think that's a bad idea, but like, then who decides what needs to be done? Like, you have some manager guy just prompting AI, hoping the code is gonna be good. And what if it's gonna be not good? But because you might have something that works, this just makes no sense to me. Now, this could be true in a sense that, let's suppose that you can get, you might need less software engineers because of AI, but that means you need less of possibly most things in your company too. So it's not gonna be just software engineers. And in fact, you're gonna need a lot less management bloat. But most of all, my point would be that who decides what needs to be done? And who decides whether that is good? Because the first part can be AI. But also, who decides that code is good, right? You just like press run and it works, that it's good? Huh? I guess the logic would be that they get rid of almost everyone except some seniors who basically just give a thumbs up to AI, and that's it. Now, ironically, this is pretty much what I do. I'm not sure what level others might place me at based on like top company rankings, but I mostly just prompt and but also that's not good enough, right? So basically what they're saying is that they're getting rid of the mid-level engineers and the low-level engineers, and they are kind of like gonna have the seniors just prompting the AI, and I guess they just gotta know if that code is good. Well, I can certainly see that more experience is better, but you just need software engineers to basically prompt the AI to write code, because if you don't have software engineers, then who's going to decide whether that code is good? And even if you argue that, let's suppose a senior can work with AI to possibly work faster than they could before, so let's say that, you know, they can work at 2x speed, sure, but they could also possibly could cost more money, right? So I'm not entirely following his strategy. So who's going to be prompting the AI, and who's going to decide whether the code is good? Like, you're just completely running with the prompting aspect. Or are you going to just completely automate? So you're going to have some senior just tell AI to write the whole thing, right? The whole thing. And I guess if it doesn't work, then they're just supposed to fix it or something. Old job, software engineer. New job, AI code repair engineer. Right. But I would argue that's not good enough. That's not good enough, because you would need to repair the AI code after every single prompt. And you would need to rethink your approach as well. So my experience is that you prompt AI, and rarely AI gives you an entirely correct answer. So you just have to correct that, what it gave you, and then it's something usable. Now, I would argue in many cases, it's still worth prompting, but it doesn't give you something that is perfect. And if you use that, that's the worst outcome. You are kind of building like a tower that's kind of rickety. It's like, okay, now you used a block that possibly even works right now, but it's gonna lead to future problems, and it's gonna lead to very soon. So what you might experience that after like 10 or 20 prompts, it is just GG. Your project belongs in the trash. Maybe future AI is gonna be smarter, but that doesn't mean that they can get rid of the human element. In fact, your limitation to describe what needs to be done exactly means that even if you had some godlike AI who could, let's say for sake of argument, can do anything, if you cannot accurately tell AI what to do, then it's pointless. And in order to do that, I would argue that it might be even harder than coding, that you need to very accurately and specifically describe exactly what needs to be done. And if you're not specific, then you basically get a reply that is unusable. Of course, if you don't know, what is good and not, then obviously you might use that, although you shouldn't. And we all know repairing shitty code is so much faster than writing good code from scratch. Yeah, that's an excellent point. AI could feel fast, but let's say that on your own, you might be writing, let's even suppose, like 20 lines per hour. So compared to that, AI just feels so fast, but you might realize that AI just kind of going into circles. You're not making progress with AI. You're not going from 1 to 2. I guess a good analogy could be like pictures. Let's say that you want a picture from AI, and you think about the right prompt, and you prompt AI, and you get a picture, right? And then what you gotta do? Like, if the picture is not right, can you fix it? Suppose you don't have that option, then you just have to think about a better prompt, right? So you're not really getting from 1 to 2. You're just trying to think of a better question to get to 1. And ultimately, you're just gonna be wasting your time over time. Assuming you possibly can't prompt well, or possibly AI can't understand your prompt very well. AI, and in the end, they are more likely to just outsourcing mid-level jobs to overseas. Yeah, that's a good point. As a senior, I say good luck. For any task that it's not straightforward or has some complexity, you can't rely on AI in its current form. One day that will likely change, but for now, it's probably just code for layoffs and maybe more offshoring. Yeah. But my argument that even if AI was godlike, you would still need to very accurately describe what you want to do. And if you don't know how to code, that's gonna be impossible. The best use case for AI is, let's say that you want to do something that possibly is gonna take an engineer like less than 1 hour to do, but ideally less than 10 hours, like less than 1 day of work. But as the project grows, especially if you're interacting in like big code bases, especially that are interconnected, AI could struggle. Especially AI could struggle if you're trying to do something that's not often done or have not been done before. Because AI is best at copying, right? And that is the most annoying part of it, that let's say that AI may have been trained on some software, some library, and it changed, or the best practice changed over time. So suppose a common example these days would be like, if you asked older AIs, or even most current day AIs, about like some Next.js project, you're probably gonna get some kind of help related to pages and possibly even classes, instead of a current day app router and something. So essentially what I'm saying is that the information is out of date. And especially it has the least amount of information about new stuff. But it's worse than just not having as much information about new stuff as you would hope, as it would benefit from, but it cannot forget the old stuff, which is now incorrect and wrong. 1 billion desperate poors with nothing, a few million with everything. It's one hell of a future. Let's go! You know, this sounds depressing, but, you know, I'm certainly gonna be the few million, right? I'm not gonna be part of the desperate poors. The baby gap. Why governments can't pay their way to higher birth rates. Governments offer a catalog of creative incentives for childbearing. You know, I'll take the creative incentive of like a big, huge, colossal, just bag of money, right? That's it. Yet, let's even suppose you had that. Things are not exactly looking up. And when it comes to society, and this is a good question, would you rather be someone who is rich in a bad society, or would you rather be like possibly average in an okay society that actually has a future, right? So let me ask you this. Would you rather have 10 million right now in our world, or would you rather have not much? Like, let's say you have a house, like this could be a lot for many, like, you know, food is not a problem, you know, house is not a problem, everything is just okay, you know? You're not rich, but like you're well off and things are looking up. The world is going toward a bright future and you have it okay. And you're one of many who live in it. This is actually a very good question. Would you rather be rich in our world or just okay with possibly a better future? Italy's birth rate crisis is irreversible, says expert. Right. But this is just nonsense, right? You can have enough houses, you have enough food. Not that I'm blaming the people here, but I guess a more accurate title would be that it's irreversible because we're not gonna spend on that. 34, house or property, thanks to inheritance. The cheat code. Steady job, barely making it for myself. That's very interesting. So, if he had to rent, then it's GG. A kid would kill me, so no shit, Sherlock. Of course it's irreversible. By the time all the current politicians fucking over the next generation will be gone, will be a wasteland. Italy is going to face an economic and probably societal collapse, soon and hard. There's one thing that could possibly save Italy, but I can't say it. And all that's being done about it is actively trying to make it worse, just to favor old and rich people now. What could be the solution here? The super rich need to realize that if they want more drones, they can hoard all the wealth. People don't feel like having children is viable financially, but that's pathetic in the first place, right? So what? You're gonna beg for just enough scraps? It means nothing. What is this money? What is this fucking dipping on dirt or something? It means nothing. There's no longer a point where people feel financially secure to go down that path. I would say that is to their credit. And it's a very sad choice. Because people just kind of want their families, right? But what are you gonna do? Many people would be happy starting a family with a comfortable level of wealth and a home they own. Yeah, but some people are messed in the head. I've heard the argument before, although it's rarely echoed, is that we kind of live in a society where people who take a lot are respected and cherished. But that is kind of flipped, right? Because we own this dirt spaceship Earth, right? And then you have the people who take a lot. Would you cheer for them? Would you cherish them? It's like, oh yeah, this is my stuff, and that's my stuff too, and this is my fantasy money, and if you don't like it, I'll just get violent with you. And those guys are our heroes? Those guys are the reason we're going extinct? Well, maybe not extinct, but the current philosophy seems to be that, you can only go up if those who have it better go up even higher, right? That's kind of what they believe. I'm not saying this to misrepresent them, but that's literally how they behave. And possibly that's literally what they say too. I think another factor is boomer population all over the world are trying to cling on to power and keep things the way they like it. Move on already. But you're the one giving them power. Salesforce will hire no more software engineers in 2025 due to AI. But the aspect that kind of find odd, let's suppose you need less software engineers because of AI or something. That is their line, that is their pretext possibly, but won't you need less of the guys who are doing other roles? As a Salesforce user, I'm not entirely convinced they hired any software engineers since 2015. In other news, Salesforce just announced their prompt retirement. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang says that in 10 years everything that moves will be robotic someday. Huh? And it will be soon. And every car is going to be robotic. Humanoid robots, the technology necessary to make it possible is just around the corner. Right. Yeah, but what kind of future is that gonna be? Let's even suppose that this is just entirely gonna happen, right? Then you're gonna have like a very small percentage of the population, a very small percentage of the very small percentage of the population owns the robots, and I guess everyone else just can't afford kids or something. I guess we just found out. Like, let's suppose that the world can support like 10 billion people, right? But if these people are not economically useful, then they should not exist. Maybe the year 2020 is gonna be 5,000 guys in America all together, and only the ones who own the robots. Everyone else is just gone. Don't ask how and why. Replit CEO on AI big breakthroughs. We don't care about professional coders anymore. Okay, so not even the lowly scrubs, not even the middle boys, but the professionals. I guess we can call anyone professional. Still, if AI can code for me, why would I hire his company? And by the way, I think there could be some truth to this. Suppose you could make a company and you can just automate everything hardcore. And you don't even have yourself running it. So the cost could be brutally low. If you can do it, then essentially you have a company that is unmatched by everything. It doesn't matter. You can hire Indians. It doesn't matter. If you had one Indian on your team, boom. Your company is, 100 times more expensive than my company, right? If AI comes into play, and you can argue robots too, but AI especially, then nothing else can compete. So at that point, it's just gonna be a question of who owns the AI. And sensible answer to that, in a sensible society, would be all of us, right? Even if one guy made it, right? I mean, certainly that one guy could enjoy a bit of a king status and possibly, you don't want to be dick to that person, but let's suppose that they get to keep their invention. Let's just call it that. Although it's clear that they are just kind of standing on top of giants. They just basically did the last thing in a long line of human knowledge. But what's going to happen? Let's say that they have a company that's worth like trillions and trillions. It's like, yeah. And everyone else is just begging for bread. And you know what you can hope for? Probably not you, though. But possibly some of us. Maybe very few of us. It's like, maybe we get to be that guy. Let me suppose you are one of the people who have it better than most. But relative to those who have it real good, you're only going down. And those who have it better than you are not going to give you money, so I guess all you can do is try to squeeze those who are already screwed. Billionaire Larry Ellison says a vast AI-fueled surveillance system can ensure citizens will be on their best behavior. By the way, that's ridiculously dystopian. Can you imagine living in a world where you possibly know that things are bad, right? Let's just go with that. But AI might know. Well, how invasive are we talking about? AI entirely in your house? So you cannot say, if you say a thing that possibly is gonna come out against you, then you can say that. You have to be very careful communicating all the time. Of course, we are already kind of living in this world, but suppose you're just talking to friends, possibly, or just inside your house, I suppose, you might be able to get away with it. But imagine a world where, all computers are essentially spyware, and you have microphones everywhere, you have cameras everywhere, and let's suppose you even try to read the book Animal Farm. It's like, oh yeah, then you're getting flagged for being a rebel, possibly. Oh, also you're gonna lose some loyalty points. But overall, this would be a system against the people by the rich. Let's have a vast surveillance system on Wall Street, ensuring that nobody can trade assets that they don't own first, or vast surveillance system to catch and punish wage theft. I mean, that's fundamentally how it works, right? I mean, a job. You would not give someone a job if you're not getting more out of it. Slaves, they want slaves. It's worse than slaves, though, in a way. Okay, we should not be equating the terms, but in our world, you're not actually forced into it. Seemingly, you just have no other choice. And a slave might actually talk some smack. But if, a regular person might just talk some smack online, right? That could be the end of their professional career. Which could be pretty much the end of their life. The ownership class keeps telling us who they are. Believe them. I mean, the simple solution here is that suppose you live in a democracy, then you just vote for the money of the rich, right? You would not have inequality. It fundamentally makes no sense. People just vote their self-interest, so there you have equality every election. If you say you can't, then you don't live in a democracy, and you never have. In fact, arguably, the entire system is incompatible a democracy. Catholic Church condemns the use of AI in war. No machine should ever choose to take the life of a human being. Yes, I want that blood on my hands. Only people should kill people remotely with drones. That is the way of God. The scariest part of AI isn't job loss, is that we might forget how to think. I think that, I guess depends like what you mean by job loss here. If people, you mean by like people not gonna need jobs to live, then yeah, the job loss, hell yeah, let's go. But if it's job loss, then you're gonna be dead that month, or possibly in a few years tops when you run out of money, then yeah, I would say that is the big problem. But forget how to think. I don't know. I think you might be having a very positive take of humanity. Forget how to think. Everyone's obsessed with AI stealing jobs, but I'm more concerned about something way worse. What if you forget how to think? Yeah, but like the regular Joe doesn't think at all. They just possibly go online and like tell me what to think and believe and do, and I'll just do that. And I'm just gonna follow whoever, right? Might teacher here. It's already happening. AI is open on laptops 24/7, and students don't even want to wait to type in whatever question or prompt they see, even if it's using what we just learned about in our previous unit. How does this new thing apply? They have it open and just run the plugin concepts from the previous unit. I wish they would go back to books in school, honestly. No phones, no computers. But the point of school is to make obedient workers, and you might not even get to be a workers in the future. And like, ultimately, how well you can use the tools kind of matters, but I suppose those tools should not be hindering your growth. I guess a good example could be, is that, let's suppose you want to learn language. How would you do this? Well, initially it's gonna be hard, because you know nothing, but there are many ways of doing it, and the official way of doing it kind of sucks. The real official way of doing it would be just like how the babies do it. You just learn more over time, and it's just gonna be heavy immersion. But what is the point I'm getting at here? Suppose you try to learn language by translating to another language all the time. Just give me the answer, or just give me what this means. You would not learn language. What if you try to learn math, and instead of just doing the math yourself, you just I guess possibly you took a picture of the problem and told AI to give you the answer, right? Now, in some cases, I would argue that the answer is the point. So there's not really a problem-solving aspect to it. And possibly you don't even need to know the answer. You can just look it up. But suppose there is a problem-solving aspect to it, and that problem-solving aspect is relevant, then, yeah, AI is gonna hurt with that. And so are tools that hinder this problem-solving aspect. Meta's chief AI scientist says DeepSeek's success story shows that the open source models are surpassing proprietary ones. Now, this would be self-evidently true if you could have a bunch of people bandwagon on an open source model, but even that would be kind of messed up, because you would have the open source model possibly getting a lot of help, and everyone else who's just running proprietary models would be just stealing from that completely. So in a reasonable world, you would have everything as open source, because nothing else would make sense. The only reason you have proprietary models is because people want to keep information confidential to take financial advantage of it. But suppose you lived in a world where you just wanted to have the best AI as fast as you can and as good as you can, then only open source would make sense. So I'm not making a claim about society or economic system, I'm just talking about just systems here, right? Just logic. What makes sense? And if you think like that, you keep coming to conclusions that are not exactly how our world runs. So suppose I want to promote my interest. My interest would be to keep my, if I had one, keep my AI proprietary and steal from everyone. So I'm a massive hypocrite. I'm stealing all the data, I'm taking their stuff, I'm taking all I can, while I'm trying to not give out anything. What? Humans looking out for each other yields positive results? Shocking! Right? What concept? Turns out we actually share knowledge and work together. Good things happen. Who would have thought? This is so self-evidently true. Yet, personally for you, you get most if you just hide things, take as much as you can, and try to capitalize on things. What? Cooperation yields better results than competition and exploitation? Who would have guessed? Well, better results for who though? Because for those who keep it proprietary, for them alone and no one else, it might be more worth it. That is how knowledge works. If I had a piece of knowledge, and I kept it to myself, then I could potentially capitalize on it. And the world would be poorer for it. If I just shared it, then the world would be richer for it, but probably I'm gonna be poor, right? People are not gonna give me money. Maybe I'm gonna be invited to some conferences and people are gonna give me a big applause, give me a high five. Capitalist, no, that can't be right. Open source better than closed source. In other news, water is still wet, more at 11. But it's hard though, because if you go open and your competitor goes closed, then it's gonna be an advantage to them, generally speaking, unless the audience really rallies behind you. But still, they will be stealing from you non-stop and trying to sabotage you non-stop. But it could feel a little bit like playing poker with showing your hands while the opponent is kind of hiding their hands and probably stealing, cheating too. And possibly the audience is gonna love you for it, but who knows if you're gonna win. More people studying and working on a problem yields better results and outcomes. Who could have seen that coming? Excuse me, I thought we agreed that AI world dominance should go to Muskrat, Bezos, and robot work. Yeah, interesting is that if you try to beat them with closed source, almost certainly you're going to lose. I mean, who's gonna bankroll you to come out ahead? DeepSeek actually made a great move that they not only came out with a open source model, but also it's kind of cheap, right? So it's basically undercutting everyone's plans. So O1 is kind of keeping up by technically having the best one out there, although it's certainly more expensive. But everyone else is like, what do we play? We have a proprietary model that is worse and global source too, and costs more. So who's gonna use our stuff? And the answer is no one. Extreme heat will kill millions of people in Europe without rapid action. Yeah. Apparently, Europe is heating up more than most places. Well, if humanity is known for anything, it's rapid action on climate change. I wouldn't worry. Well, you'll be thinking to yourself that what you gotta do about it? There's nothing you can do, right? As an individual, are you gonna the thing is about climate change that this possibly could be something that world could unite over if we didn't live in a stupid world, right? And let's just say that everyone living an okay life, and then we have the climate change and we need to step up on that. But people don't even care right now. Most people are so screwed that climate change is not really the top of the list. Then even if they are not screwed, are you gonna bankroll the action against climate change, or you're just gonna have it good yourself? Possibly try to not be affected by these problems. Godfather of AI explains how scary AI will increase the wealth gap and make society worse. Experts predict that AI produces fertile ground for fascism. Right. Clearly he's a communist or a socialist, but these labels make no sense because when you realize that many people are not really even approaching it from a moralistic lens, because some and I would argue most are approaching it from a lens of we should do right by people or something like that. But there is a big group of people, let's just an odd analogy, but let's just look at the vegans, right? You look at the vegans and some will be we should be good to animals because why not, right? Or something like that. Of course, in this case, it's not animals, but humans, which probably you should value more, but regardless, and they're gonna be the people who I looked at all the diets and vegan is the healthiest, so I'm doing that. I thought about it, looked at the data, and that's it. And many come to the same conclusion. And you can only argue against it if you say no, because humanity is all about competition and trying to take all for yourself. It doesn't matter if humanity is doomed if you die with the biggest bag of money. To which I would ask, do you have the biggest bag of money right now? Would it even make sense to have the biggest bag of money? I guess personally speaking, I would personally live in a world, it would make more sense to live in a world where you have it good, most people have it good, and it has a future. I wouldn't want to be the richest man on the Titanic. Millennial carriers at risk due to AI. 38% say a new AI survey. 38%? Do the others not have a brain? Possibly. I could certainly you can look at it that not all jobs are at risk, but depends on what we mean by at risk though. Because some might argue that your job is only at risk if AI can completely automate your job, which is one way to look at it. But I would argue that this is flawed, because even if you don't have a job that is even affected by AI directly, it could be indirectly affected by AI, because let's say that the other related jobs are affected by AI, then you might see that you're not as needed as anymore. Of course, it depends on the job. So it will be a question of whether can AI do your job, then you're done. If AI can make it easier to do your job, then most of you will be done. If AI can make it easier to do the job of those who are kind of playing around with you, then yeah, that's going to be a little bit tricky. And best case scenario, you only have to worry about the metal man, which are kind of constructed right now. But even the best case scenario, you will eventually be looking to be competing in price against the robots. And considering that people in the first world tend to have high salaries, then they are the prime targets for robots. Because let's say that, you could see one day that like some are getting paid $30 an hour. That's pretty good. But what if the robot only takes one, right? Do you think your boss loves you that much? And the answer to that is it doesn't matter. Because if the other business does it, then your boss has to do it too. Even if they are the most bleeding heart, they have a choice between doing it and going out of business. Who wouldn't feel this way when layoffs are the normal? And every company that can is grifting AI in any way possible while making it known they want to replace workers. That's self-evident. It is really hard of a mental hurdle to hop over. I think many are just coping here too. Then what a shock that millennials are the ones to feel the most targeted when their generation has been habitually steamrolled by consequential economic events that usually started and ended with the same industries that are now grifting AI. The next article will be, survey says millennials believe water is wet. Personally, I'm kind of happy that some millennials have a brain. Wait a second. Is careers plural? Then, yeah, this is pretty bad. I just assumed that it's their career. Just in time for my body to not be healthy enough to handle a transition into trades. Right. Don't worry, everyone is going to transition into the trade, devaluing each profession to the point where it won't even be worth it. Lol. Yeah. I guess your best... I don't know. But if you want to go into trades, I guess it would be most apt for someone who's like a young guy, right? A really young guy. While trying to push for some kind of social change because the robots are coming for you too. This startup is using AI agents to flood Reddit with marketing slop. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say, but you can definitely do that. If you want to, you can create or buy accounts and have the AI or robots, I guess AI, just do things on that AI, that account. Right? And you see these bots all the time, especially in some Reddits. 20% of online job listings are misleading or never result in employment. The job market is filled with fake positions and openings never meant to be filled. Especially if they are from agencies, then they can just farm CVs, farm applications, and they don't care, I guess, right? For posting one job post, I suppose. I mean, however much that is worth, how much that is cost, they can farm a lot of CVs. But also, I mean, people are just getting their time wasted. That's just how it works. And it's easier than ever because you can have AI write the job post, you can have AI create the job posts, and you can even have you can just spam people with marketing messages. So basically, you just waste people's time. Posting a job should cost you money. It does cost you money in many places. It doesn't matter. You could be paying, like, it depends on places, but you could be looking at like a few $100 to post the job. But it doesn't matter because you could be getting thousands of CVs out of it, or just gauge some interest. For a company, hundreds of bucks is nothing, but getting a ton of information about the applicants and the level of interest and what's going on, that is clearly worth more than it costs to post a job. OpenAI furious, DeepSeek might have stolen all the data OpenAI stole from us. OpenAI shocked that an AI company would train on someone else's data without permission or compensation. What do you think about Sam Altman, though? He's kind of presenting himself as a well-meaning, borderline autistic nerd, I guess. I guess you can say that he can be somewhat charismatic at times. Still, I can't really shake the feeling that he's acting. And arguably, if you're a CEO, you should be acting for sure. And if you see him once, you might be like, oh yeah, that's how this guy is. But like, if you see him many, many times, then like, interesting. I could name names, but I probably shouldn't. There are many examples of those who are like channeling this wholesome nerd, possibly persona. But is he? They should first start by compensating 7 billion people worldwide whose content they stole. It's not stealing. You know, when I acquire, that's not stealing. If people acquire from me, that's stealing. You can be 100% certain that OpenAI is already distilling DeepSeek data. Boo fucking who? The previous 501c3, now flip for profit OpenAI, scrapped all of our content without permission, then is upset when they get scrapped. Altman and Gates can pound salt. Sand, yeah. Yeah, I didn't name names, but Gates would be a similar guy who's channeling that persona. I could name others. Seriously? Am I supposed to care about this? No, this is totally fine, right? People stealing your data and them stealing their data is part of the game. But I'm not sure he gets to cry about it. They're not trying to get sympathy. They are trying to distract from the fact that DeepSeek's training method is so much cheaper than their own. This is very interesting because suppose this is reproducible. Then it means that whoever gets there first, others can easily catch up, right? And for cheap. Stealing data from OpenAI source isn't stealing genius. Well, yeah, how could you steal from OpenAI, right? Checkmate, Sam Altman. Today's CEOs are the last to manage all human workforces, says Mark Benioff. I think it's different than that. Because you might not manage anything, right? You can just have something. Like, let's say you write a program and no one manages it, not even you. So possibly, well, I'm kind of hoping that's not going to be our future, but suppose that's going to be our future, then you have companies that more look like some kind of solopreneur setups. So you have one guy who's possibly have a background in, sales, marketing, and software development, right? And that would be the golden combo. And then they have a bunch of sales AI bots and marketing AI bots, and they also write the code and they just sell it. Of course, when the robots come in, actual robots, you can be some kind of god who perfectly commands all your workers, and I guess, but even you wouldn't do it. Possibly you would have AI who's doing it for you. Today's CEOs are easier to replace with AI than any other part of the workforce. That's an excellent point, though. I know this is supposed to be a cheeky comment, but it is true. Because if the CEO's job is big part to manage a human workforce, then who would be the most qualified to actually run a future company that is not made up of humans, but of robots and AI and software, hardware and software. So who could run that? Where I would say that it's probably going to be some kind of marketer who reaches into coding, or some kind of coder who reaches into marketing. Possibly do both, but it kind of depends on how technical the product is. Trying to do sales and marketing personally will be just too inefficient. And trying to write code, at least on your own, without AI help, will be just completely unviable. Not in the sense that you cannot do it, but you would just lose to the market. But if I had to pick between these skill sets, then I would say the programmer has the advantage. Because you can have the marketer and the sales bots running, and that's fine. But in order to make a product, then you might need some kind of cooperation between programmers. Even if it's less efficient, because let's say that one guy can get it done in 1x time, and 10 guys can get it done in, 3x time. Which might be true, but 1x might be too slow. But this is not about job titles, but essentially assuming that, well, we have no reason to assume not to be the case, but the value essentially will be entirely tied to how well you can leverage opportunities, which would be like AI too. It will be completely worthless if you're some kind of a face-to-face seller, and like, let's say that you're okay at it. What does that matter if someone can write millions of bots, but just write one bot, and then millions of them are just selling on the internet? How are you gonna compete with that? To which the answer is that you can't. You just go out of business. And no one's gonna hire you because the bots can do your job. Not better than you, but cheaper. So much cheaper. Who knows, maybe better too. China's population declines. Women face rising pressure from authorities. For the third consecutive year, China's population has declined. To revive the country's birth rate, authorities are relying on incentive-based policies as well as intrusive campaigns targeting women. Have babies, we need more slaves! Something like that. Personally speaking, I kind of hate incentive-based policies. Why not just make sure everyone has a good life? Essentially what the government does is that they tax the people and they try to buy babies, essentially. And if this stuff's working, yeah, I have a theory that they can just grow babies, right? If people are not gonna have babies, then they're just gonna grow babies. And that's gonna be one hell of a Pandora's box, because if you open that one, what you gonna get? Because at least the individual citizens gonna have their own ideas of what they want. But suppose you just grew children, and then you put them in some kind of an education camp all their childhood, and essentially they are just grown and made, and they entirely exist to work, right? Developing countries learned that if you want high birth rate, well, it's not even high here, then you need citizens to feel financially secure. When people have less stress and more leisure time, they will think more about starting families. The corporate government mandate to take on more work for less pay is destroying the home life that encourages families. Yeah, but the line of thinking here is that, first of all, take more from people, so you're better off. Also, if people are more squeezed, then maybe they're gonna get totally desperate and gonna have kids anyway, right? I see some approaches these days, like, oh yeah, you know what we need? Let's just ban birth control or something, and let's just ban abortion. And you know what we need to ban? Well, let's just ban corn size too. Those are bad. So they try to do everything but improve the life of the people. The trouble with that is even nations that most generous programs for having children, like that of Finland or Denmark, still are not having enough children to meet the replacement rate. There is more at play than simply feeling financially secure. Yeah, you gotta feel secure about the future, because, yeah, let's say that you were partly well off, right? But the future was looking a little grim. Although I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a rational take, but people are not rational, right? If you were in a concentration camp, you would probably not have a kid, even if you had the most coins. And that is exactly how people could be feeling like. And your captors demeaning you and shouting, "Start fucking, boys, we need more slaves!" is probably not making things better. The truth of the matter seems to be the more developed and educated people are, the less children they seem to want to have because they want to do other things. It's not just that, but also you would want to have a good life for your kids. If you are smart, right, you're not gonna have a kid in this world if they're gonna not make it. Let's just call it that. Because a kid is a long-term plan. Suppose you were well off, and your kid is gonna be well off too, for sure, right? And currently, the only way to possibly hope for this, although most people are not on this level, that let's say that you just have a lot of money and you're just kind of hoping that people are not gonna take away your money, that you're just fantasy points, right? But also they don't need to take it away. They can just not respect it, and like you just have a bunch of fantasy points and others not care. It's like, oh my god, people don't care about my fantasy points. Don't they understand that I have made millions of these fantasy points and they have no fantasy points and they should just slave away for that? How stupid they are. And on the other side, you have no fantasy points, so it's not much of a question. So while people might pick on those who possibly like take out from the system, or others might claim it as such, but suppose you live in a country where the worst thing that can happen to you, right? That you gonna end up on making like okay money, right? Just getting okay money from the government. Let's say that you're living on like, possibly like, let's say like $1,000 or $2,000 per month, and it's okay, and you have enough to live a modest life, and you have a house, you have everything. So essentially all I'm saying is that the floor is okay. You're not gonna have a great life, but suppose the worst thing that can happen to you in this life is that you're gonna live in a modest house, living a modest life, and that's the worst thing ever, then that isn't that bad. But that is not the world we live in. You have to walk past homeless people constantly because, and if the winds turn against you, that will be you, 100%. All you can try to do is try to get more money, so you might be better off, but it will not change the world. No one has really figured out how to reverse fertility rate decline once it gets too low. Also, you got to keep in mind that the lower it gets, the more the workers are pressured to keep everything up. So let's say, for sake of argument, that we did that, let's say that all women get to stay home, no problem. All guys get to, work half the time, right? No problem. And for 3 times the salary, no problem. So, will this improve things? And self-evidently, we can say that yes, it will. But for who? Immediately money would start becoming less valuable because the workers are the only people that give value to the currency. Less people, better job opportunities. This will be different because of the AI and automation craze. More power to the people, more resources to share, more room for other animals. I don't know, man. All I think that will happen is that the rich will buy more. It's almost as if the poor and oppressed don't want to bring any more people into their misery. It's almost like women don't want to have children when things are unstable. Who would have thunk, right? But that's just a stupid way to think, mate. Because there's never a wrong time to be pregnant and invest decades into a kid. Hands-on jobs to grow fastest because AI can't replace them. World Economic Forum finds huge demand for brain box skills. News for how it changes your role. Problem here is that whatever is the good opportunity, if we call it good, will eventually be filled up. Remember the time where everyone is supposed to become a coder, and we are a few years at most past that, and apparently no one should be a coder, even the professionals. Rich people automate high-paying jobs, making minimum wage the only wage. I would pay you less if I could. Also, like, assuming if you even can get a minimum wage job, because many are self-employed or entrepreneurs here. Michigan new law mandates computer science classes in high schools. Really? What level of computer science classes? So I guess people in Michigan might be real smart. Code literacy requirement aims to equip students for future jobs. I would say this possibly is a good thing. They seem to be doing some practice. I guess that's fine. I'm not sure what to think about this. So, this is a good thing. About 20 years late. I'm a little different because I was really into computers. Really into computers. But most were not, and they probably should be. Although, I'm not sure computer science is what they need to learn. Just in time for AI to make a lot of those jobs obsolete. But I think an interesting side effect that if you learn computer science, then you might learn a problem solving, right? That's kind of the additional utility of math as well. That let's suppose that you potentially forget many aspects of math. It does not mean that it was worthless. Side note, I still had to learn how to do math even though my TI-83 could do most things. Maybe that will be the case with coding. Got to learn how to code so you can use AI and tell it what you want coded. I don't know. If anything, comp science, good at drilling, critical thinking skills, yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. Being able to decipher and debug something can generally be applied to other things besides just coding, yeah. It's one of the best ways to learn critical thinking. But how much have the times changed? Society went from not even using computers, not even that long ago, in classes, to just teaching computer science in high school. But it's not super far-fetched, because even when I was in elementary school, we were kind of like making websites. I'm not sure if you would consider HTML and CSS programming, but I guess you gotta start somewhere. And just in time, boys. It is the game of we're all gonna be legendary programmers / marketers, perhaps, and we're gonna have an army, a legion of AI bots and possibly real middlemans who serve our bidding. And the ultimate goal is having the most money. So, let the game begin.